What's up, guys? In this video, I want to go over a easy, a medium, and a hard example of graphing the square root function. I don't know what it is, but a lot of times when students have to graph a square root function, they completely forget what this graph looks like. They completely forget how to apply the transformations. Even though we did that with quadratics, they get the idea, but then I throw in that square root and they're like, I don't remember what that graph looks like. So before we get started, we need to make sure we understand and know that the y equals the square root of x, which would be our parent function, is going to look like this. It's going up and to the right. You can see it's always in those positive values, and it has an x and y intercept of 0, 0. Now that's going to be very important because what we're going to do is use transformations to graph all of the examples that I have here. You could also use the table method, but usually that's for much more of a beginner approach. But we will utilize points to make sure we can verify that the graph that we sketched is exactly the graph that we were looking for. So let's go and get our start with our easy example, something that if I was teaching this to a group of students, we would start off with. So I have the square root of x minus 2 and then going to be plus 1. All right. Now, one thing I always like to, again, as I mentioned before, refer students to is the transformation that we use with quadratics. Again, students usually feel more comfortable with quadratics and understanding the transformations. And it's all we're doing is just swapping out for a different function. So let's forget about the square root for a second, and let's just pretend I had y equals a x minus 2 quantity squared plus 1. Now, what would be the transformations of this function? And if you remember, the square root function looks something like this, right? That's going to be that U-shaped graph. And if you remember, when we have something that's inside of the function, that's going to be shifting the graph left or right. And if it was a minus 2, remember, that'd be shifting the graph 2 units to the right. And if we have a transformation outside the function, that'd be shifting the graph up or down. So if I'm going up 1 or plus 1, that's going to be up 1. So my vertex, which is at 0, 0, is going to be shifted 2 units to the right and then up 1 unit. So now the graph is going to look exactly like that, right? There's no stretching or compression or reflections. That's all we're doing. So ladies and gentlemen, all we need to do in this case is, again, just understand we're doing the exact same thing. We just have a different function graph, right? We know this graph looks just like this. But if we understand our transformations and we understand at least one point we can move, which in this case is 0, 0, just like it was for the quadratic, all I simply need to do then is shift this value 2 units to the right and then 1 unit up. And you can see now I can just retrace the graph and it's going to look like that. Again, we're not working with any vertical stretches or compressions. Now, it is always helpful, though, to make sure that we can verify a point, right? And that's what I told you. I don't want to do a table of values and going through all these different points, but let's make sure we can verify at least one other point besides this point 2, 1, which was a very easy transformation. So typically what I would like to do is we want to be able to find a value that when I subtract 2 from it, it's going to give me a number that's going to be a square number, right? Now, a number that I can go ahead and take the square root of. Now, obviously, we know when we subtract a 2 from 2, that's going to give us 0, and that's how we got that 0.1. But what's another number that we could go ahead and subtract from to verify another point? Well, I know I can take the square root of 4. So what minus 4, if I said like x minus 2 is equal to 4, right? What is this value that's going to give me? And hopefully you realize that's going to be a 6. So if I wanted to plug in this value, let's say I do y of 6, right? That's going to give me, so that'd be my x value. That's the input value. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's go ahead and plug that in. So 6 minus a 2 plus 1. Well, 6 minus 2 is 4. The square root of 4 is 2. 2 plus 1 is going to be 3. So using just one more value here, 6, 3 is 1, 2, 3. So let's see, I was a little off, right? So our graph needs to look something like that, okay? So I'll go and fix it up there. That's what happens. The difference here when you go from sketching compared to actually using like some graph paper. But that's a very easy one, no stretches or compressions. So I think what that means is for the next example, the medium approach, we need to get to a stretch or compression. So this one is going to be y is equal to the square root of a negative 3/2 x. Now, one thing hopefully you remember when we're dealing with a negative, especially with a quadratic, right? If we go back to this, y equals a negative x squared. A lot of students remember, oh, when it's a negative, you reflect about the y-axis. Or I'm sorry, you reflect about the x-axis, right? It's a vertical reflection. Now the parabola is opening down. But this is actually not a negative on the outside. This is a negative on the inside. So it's actually going to be a reflection about the y-axis. Now, we don't really care too much about that when we're dealing with quadratics, because if you look at a quadratic function, it is symmetrical about the y-axis, right? If I have a negative x, or a y equals a negative x squared, what you can see is like that graph is going to produce the exact same one, right? So the only reflection that we typically dealt with is when we were dealing with a negative on the outside. But a negative on the inside is a reflection about the y-axis. It just doesn't show up anything on there, okay? So the one thing that I know from this example, is I know that I'm going to have my graph. So if I look at the original parent graph, this graph goes up and to the right. If I'm reflecting about the y-axis, which is right here, I know this orientation is now going to be in the opposite direction, right? Now this graph is going to go this way. Now, inside this function, you can see we actually have a multiplication. And if, again, going back to what we remember about over here, y equals a, let's forget about the a. Let's just do it like a 2x squared. If you remember, when we were multiplying a quadratic, that by a number larger than 1, that was what we called a vertical stretch, right? And if it was a number between 0 and 1, that was going to be a vertical compression. Well, on the same thing, on the kind of the same token, we can look at that on the inside. If I have like a 2x squared, so that's actually going to be what we call, it's kind of like the opposite, just like how the shifting was positive, you shifted to the left, and if it was -2, you'd shift to the right 2. Inside the function, it's actually the exact opposite as well. When I multiply by 2, that's going to be actually a horizontal compression of 2. And if you multiply your x by a number between 0 and 1, that'd actually be a horizontal stretch. So it's really important. So I know in this case, I know I have a negative. That's going to be my reflection. And then 3/2 is, can be written as like 1.5, right? So I know that's larger than 1. So I'm not going to say it's going to be a vertical stretch, but we're going to call this as a horizontal compression. But again, here comes to this table of values, right? I need to be able to identify a number I can take the square root of. All right. Now, in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I want this to be 9 because I know I can take the square root of 9, which is going to be 3. So again, which number should I plug in here? So I can just do a quick a little bit of math and say, all right, a -3/2 times what number is going to equal a 9? So now to go ahead and solve that, I'm going to multiply by 2 on both sides. I get a -3x is equal to an 18, divide by -3, divide by -3, and I'm going to get x is equal to a -6, okay? So what that means is I know this graph is going over this way, so let's go ahead and write it out there. So I know this graph is going to be going in this direction. And let's go and figure out what is actually going to be my value at -6. I'm not shifting it left or right, right? So I know this point, let's use the light blue. I know this point is going to still be at 0, 0. I just know the graph is going to be going this way, right? Instead of over to the right. So let's go and plug in a y sub -6 and see what we get. When I go ahead and do that, I'm going to have a -3/2 times a -6. Now, obviously, we know we are already trying to get 9, right? So hopefully you recognize that number is going to be 9. But again, let's just kind of riddle me. 2 divides into -9, -3 times. -3 times -3 is a +9. That's how we're getting that value that we can take the square root of. The square root of 9 is going to be a 3. So therefore, this value is going to equal 3. So at -6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I'm going to be up to a +3. So it's not a big horizontal compression, but it is going to be, something kind of manageable, at least a little bit different than if we were to just reflect the parent function as it is. All right, now let's get into the hard one. Now, this is the one that, the teacher's going to throw up on the test, that students are going to be like always getting their mistakes done, or the one that we would just challenge the students. If students feel good with graphing radicals, then usually this would be a problem that they'd have to go and approach. So there's a couple reasons why this one is difficult. Well, first of all, it doesn't look like the typical equation that we would be most familiar with. So if I'm looking at the transformations of a radical function, or really with any function, the typical form that we write down in our notes is going to look something like this. Y is equal to a times the square root of b times x minus c plus d. Okay, so remember, A and B are going to be or A is going to be your vertical stretch or compression, as well as reflection about the x-axis. B is going to be your horizontal compression or stretch, as well as your reflection about the y-axis. C is going to be your horizontal shift to left or right, and D is going to be your vertical shift up or down. Again, notice A and D are vertical transformations, and B and C are going to be horizontal. So if it's inside the function, it's horizontal. If it's outside the function, it's going to be vertical. That's something true that you can take for all functions. I just felt I would add it into this video. So in this case, if we want to go from here to here, what do we got to do? Well, I don't like this 2 in front. Let's put that out there, right? Now recognize that's a positive 2. I know we see this negative here, but that's a positive 2, right? It's not minus 2. So when we rewrite this, we're going to make sure we rewrite that as a plus 2. And I can't really get rid of this negative in this case. So I'm going to have to leave it right there. So what I have here now is y is equal to a negative 3x plus 6 plus 2. Now, the next thing I need to recognize is in this example, I have a b times the quantity x minus c. That's really important because if I need to understand what is my horizontal stretch or compression, I need to make sure my x has a coefficient of 1. So I need to make sure I factor out any term. Now, back over here, I didn't have any horizontal transformations, right? So, I mean, there was no way for me to like x minus 1 or x plus, so I didn't have to worry about that. So I could use that as my b. But to get the true value to get your b, even though it is going to be 3, you need to make sure you factor it out to make sure you get the correct horizontal transformation. So all I need to do is factor out a 3 from this case. So when I do that, I get a y equals a negative 3 times x plus 2. There you go, plus 2, okay? So now let's recognize our transformations. We have a negative on the outside, which again is going to be like a reflection about the x-axis. We have a plus 2 on the inside of our function. So that's going to be a shift left 2. And then we have a plus 2 on the outside, which is going to be a shift up 2. So we know the parent graph looks like this. But if we're going to reflect it about the x-axis, we now know it's going to have an orientation of something like this, right? And then we need to shift that left 2 and then up 2. So let's go and start with that before we get to the transformations, or before we verify the point. So let's go. It's going to be negative 2 to the left and then up 2. So we have this point, and then I know the graph is going to go down here, right? So I know that's our general orientation. And the reason why I'm doing this is because sometimes, depending on your instruction from your teacher or what's on your test, they might say sketch the graph. And if you need to just sketch the graph, then you just would go like that and you're good to go. And then sometimes it might be like, well, provide 2 points, right? So we need to verify, like, what's another point that we can go ahead and use in this case. Now, in this example, I'm going to try to see, let's see, if I can be able to figure out a 3x plus 6. Let's see if I can get that to be a 4. So I can take the square root of 4. So I'll just say 3x plus 6. I want that to equal 4 because I know what the square root of 4 is, right? So if I subtract a 6 on both sides, I get a 3x is equal to a negative 2. Yeah, I guess that's all right. 4. I mean, that's going to work. What did I have? I thought I worked through this one. Did I choose a different problem? What did I pick? Where did I put that problem? Did I get that to be 9? Oh, I plugged in 3. No, that's not what I wanted. Either way, let's go ahead and work with this. That's fine. So I divide by 3. X is equal to a, that's not going to be nice though. All right, let's not deal. So to give you why this would be a hard problem is you got to be able to think like, I want this to be I did want it to be 9. So I did 9 again. Okay, let's just work it to be 9. So if you can see, when I work it to be 4, it doesn't really come out to another number. Now, again, could you still use x equals a negative 2/3? Yeah, but like if you're going to be graphing like a negative 2/3, it kind of looks weird, right? So I wouldn't advise on it. But again, like you can work through it and then feel like, all right, well, how about let's just do 9, right? Let's not work with 4 being inside my radical. But again, I need to have something, I want to be able to work with integers, right? I don't want it to just be like, you could do it to be as like 1 or, 2, but you don't want it to be 2, right? Because you don't want to be graphing the point the square root of 2. So let's go ahead and make this a 9. And so 3x plus 6 is equal to a 9. So when I subtract 6 on both sides, I get a 3x is equal to a 3. Divide by 3, divide by 3. x is equal to a 1. So if I go ahead and calculate what happens when I plug in y sub 1, y sub 1 here is going to be a 2 minus the square root of 3 times 1 is going to be a 3. 3 plus 6 is 9. Square root of 9 is going to be, 9. Square root of 9 is going to be a 3. So therefore, that's going to be a 2 minus 3. Y equals a negative 1. I don't know why I typed it like that. Y equals a negative 1. So if I go over to a 1, so my input value or my x value is going to be 1. My output value is going to be a negative 1. So now I can verify that I have 2 points on my square root function. So hopefully this was helpful for you, ladies and gentlemen. I know just 3 examples, though, might not be enough. So if you want to check out more examples or ways that you can practice on your own, then check out the worksheet I have for you down below. If you want to be able to see more videos that I have on radicals or easy, medium, hard, then check out the playlist I have for down below or the next video I have for you here. Cheers.